Greetings and welcome to Unmuted. I'm Judge E.J. Russell, and here on Unmuted, we want to take the muzzle off and talk candidly. Unmuted will feature a variety of guests, including politicians, community leaders, entertainers, decision makers, and others addressing news-breaking issues and compelling concerns to the community and nation. If you would like to contact us, please send an email to unmuted@myyahoo.com. That's unmuted at myyahoo.com. Today's guest is Dr. Carl Mack, and we are going to have a historical tutorial. Dr. Mack and I were talking recently, and I learned a lot about how much I didn't know. So welcome to Unmuted, Dr. Mack.
Oh, Judge Russell, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, are you ready for this tutorial?
I'm always ready to hold class, and I got to tell you, for those who don't know, Judge Russell and I had a class yesterday, and I got to tell you, Judge, you were a phenomenal student. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for tutoring me, and we'll have to have another session so that I can see how much I retain from that.
There you go. I have no doubt you're going to be an A student for us.
All right. So today, let's start wherever you want to start. And I know yesterday we started talking about the secession resolution for the state of Mississippi, and it just went on and on and on.
Yeah. But you know, Judge, I'm gonna tell you where I'd like to start. It is for those who don't know. I live in the state of Maryland now, and I'm from Jackson and went to Lanier High School, graduated from Mississippi State, the likes. But I live in Maryland now, but my mama's still down there, and my folks are still down there. And they giving me a call about this crazy, racist kind of dude who's running for lieutenant governor. What's his name? What's his name,
Chris
Judge?
McDaniel.
Chris McDaniel. So now I understand that this fool wants to bring back the Confederate flag. So why don't we start there? And so, Judge, just so that I'm clear, and I don't want to be ahead of myself and calling them racist or calling them a fool. So why don't you tell me? But I'm gonna tell you this, family. Not only are we gonna be unmuted, but we're gonna be unapologetic. Anybody who wants to bring back the Confederate flag, use a fool and use a racist. So let me start there. But Judge, if you could give me some of the insight on what he's trying to say justifies this racist behavior that he's trying to employ upon Black Mississippi and Mississippi in general.
Well, he calls it honor and tradition and heritage. Those are his favorite words. And
honor,
several tradition and heritage.
Okay.
Unpack that.
Okay. Honor, tradition, and heritage. So is it safe to say that has he made any statement that the Confederate flag has nothing to do with race?
Of course. Of course. Okay. It's all about tradition, honor, and heritage, and that it is being forced down the voters' throat. If he is elected lieutenant governor, then we'll have the people to vote on that flag. He objected and opposed it, I know as early as 2015, and maybe even sooner than that. And it has been his rallying cry ever since that time. He had a race against Thad Cochran, a long-serving Republican senator, and it was interesting that some of the media thought that the way he folded our then Confederate flag, it looked like the one that was taken into battle. Even more, I guess, disrespectful is a good word.
Okay. All right. So let's get into, and I don't want to be subjective here in my opinions about Chris. He is a fool. He's a racist. And to try to bring back the Confederate flag speaks against history. And the only reason he can use words like heritage, tradition, and honor, he could use those words to people who do not understand history. So let's be very clear here, family, about why the Civil War was fought. The Civil War was fought over one word. There is one word to answer why the Civil War was fought, and that was slavery. So, Judge, I asked you to look up the Mississippi Letter of Secession. And so if we could get ready to pull that up, but now I want to explain to our viewers what the Mississippi Letter of Secession was. I want you to go back to the Declaration of Independence. And when you go back to the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776, this was a document that the 13 colonies wrote to explain why they were declaring their independence from England. So they wrote about all the bad things that King George was doing. And they said, we're going to write these facts to be submitted to a candid world. So that's what the Declaration of Independence was. In parallel to that, the Mississippi Letter of Secession is a letter written by the fathers of Mississippi to say, this is why we are going to leave the Union. And so if you look at the Mississippi Letter of Secession, it starts off by saying, in this momentous step, which has induced our actions in causing us to leave the Union, we must state what our prominent reason for leaving the Union. And Mississippi, in that letter of secession, clearly stated that their reason for leaving the Union was slavery, the protection of slavery. Now they go on in that letter and they state that God made the black man to bear exposure to that tropical sun, that hot Mississippi sun, and pick that cotton. So if we were to pull up the letter of secession, you'd be able to see exactly what the state of Mississippi said. So what we have clearly discerned here is that the Civil War was fought over slavery. Mississippi left the Union because of slavery. Now I need you to understand who the president and the vice president of the Confederacy was. Most of us should know who the president of the Confederacy was because he's Jefferson Davis of Mississippi. Most of us are not going to know who the vice president is. The vice president of the Confederacy was a man named Alexander Stephens of Georgia. Now, Alexander Stephens wrote a very infamous speech known as the Cornerstone Speech. So if you go look up the Cornerstone Speech, you're going to get a speech from the vice president of the Confederacy, in which he's telling you, this is why we left the Union. This is why we're fighting a war. He tells you that. So Chris, in your nonsense that you're trying to push down folks' throat who don't know history, understand this, player. I do understand a little bit of what your forefathers wrote, what your forefathers said, and what your forefathers meant. So you can bring your racist crazy butt and let's sit down here in this classroom and we could talk about it. Because I want you to explain to us, all of Mississippi, explain the Cornerstone Speech written by your great forefathers, Alexander Stephens, when he said, our new government, talking about the government of the Confederacy, he said, our new government is the first in the history of the world based upon the great physical, philosophical, and moral truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior race is our natural and normal condition. And this, our new government, is what this is founded on. That's what your forefathers said. They clearly talked about the fact that they were talking about race. They were talking about white superiority. They were talking about black inferiority. That is what that banner stands for. No matter where you turn, when you study the Civil War, when your 11 states left the Union and they formed that Confederacy and they elected Jefferson Davis as their president, Alexander Stephens as their vice president, when they elected their Congress and wrote their Constitution, acting as a new nation, and they put those stars and bars up there to represent their new nation, the Confederate States of America, they will represent a way of life as well, Chris. And you know, and I know, that that way of life was based on white superiority and black inferiority. So you could take that Confederate flag and shove it right up your butt, but don't be bringing that nonsense up in here talking to us about no honor and heritage and all that malarkey. We understand what you are. You're racist. You're flat racist.
Well, and Dr. Mack, while those comments are resonating with voters right now, because Chris Daniels is running for the second highest office in Mississippi, but a lot would argue that even though it's the second, lieutenant governor, it is the most powerful. And the reason it is most powerful is because that person, as lieutenant governor, controls the Mississippi Senate, where you have all of your advice and confirmation for appointees. It is the higher chamber, so often they will lead the way for the House of Representatives. But a person like Chris McDaniel, is not the only concern that our voters should have, because there's so many others who believe the same way he does, and did not want that flag change. And people say, well, it's only a flag, it doesn't mean anything, but it tells you in many instances, in most instances, who they are, the ones who support that. And as you've stated, it has nothing to do with tradition, honor, and heritage. Not a good one anyway, not a good one.
It's a good one for them, but certainly not a good one for us.
Because I know you're going to want to go on for a minute, and we're going to need to take a break here, but we're going to come right back, and you're going to let me read this letter of secession and go forward. Yes. We'll be right back.
Yes.
Unmuted.
Footprint Farms is a beautiful 68-acre vegetable and cattle farm located in Jackson, Mississippi, and is Mississippi's largest urban farm. The mission of Footprint Farms is to provide the community access to healthy food choices, introduce our youth to agriculture, and provide training and technical assistance to small farmers and ranchers. The farm is open to the public every Friday from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. to purchase fresh produce or visit us at the Mississippi Farmers Market located near the fairgrounds. We accept all forms of payment, including EBT and SNAP benefits. Looking for a beautiful venue for your next wedding, family reunion, or dinner? Footprint Farms offers a 3,000 square foot facility on 5 beautiful acres, perfect for your next event. For more information, visit our website at footprintfarms.com, Facebook and Instagram at Footprint Farms, or call us at 601-910-5534. Footprint Farms, farm fresh, city sweet.
Welcome back to Unmuted. We have opening soon, Farmers Hands Market. It will be open every Friday and Saturday in June, but there's a soft launch on May 26th and 27th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Jackson Medical Mall, located at 350 West Woodrow Wilson Avenue, number 3140, on the Livingston Road side of the Jackson Medical Mall. Music, free popcorn, door prizes, vendors welcome, farmers, entrepreneurs, and businesses are encouraged to sign up. CSA boxes are available upon request. 10% discount on selected items for seniors 55 and older. EBT, SNAP will be accepted. For more information, call 601-946-3172, farmershandmarket.org. So, we are excited about that coming up, and our guest today is Dr. Carl Mack, and we are in tutorial on Mississippi history and some of the myths that follow the Confederate flag, the reason for secession, and much, much more. So let me turn to this Mississippi secession resolution. And you've pretty much learned this thing verbatim, because it leads out with the statement, in the momentous step which our state has taken of dissolving its connection with the government of which we so long formed a part, it is but just that we should declare the prominent reasons which have induced our course. Listen to what I just said. We should declare the prominent reasons which have induced our course. Our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world, And a blow at slavery is a blow at commerce and civilization. That blow has been long aimed at the institution and was at the point of reaching its consummation. There was no choice left us but submission to the mandates of abolition or a dissolution of the Union, whose principles had been subverted to work out our ruin. I mean, how much clearer can you be?
And Judge, the other thing is, I want you to read a little bit further when they talk about how God made the black man. They call it the imperious laws of nature. It's in that first paragraph. If you could read that portion so that folks understand how Mississippi viewed us.
I am trying to find that.
Okay. Well, while you look for that, I do want to go back to the letter of. I want to go back to the cornerstone speech because I want people to understand what the vice president said. So what we have to understand is, Chris. You know what? I'm gonna be talking
and
to you
all
all
the
and Chris.
Chris's and all the Chris's
right.
in Mississippi.
All of them. Because you're right, Judge. If all you see is Chris, this Chris running for lieutenant governor, you're missing the point. He can't run for that position unless the Republican Party is fully endorsing the rhetoric he's speaking. So they've quickly become a party of racists. They are. They're quickly becoming that way if they're supporting this idiot. Now, but let's be clear about honor, heritage, and the likes. When you talk about the Civil War, go back to that cornerstone speech what the Vice President Alexander Stephens wrote in that cornerstone speech. Because, Chris, you can't spin it, you can't hide it. I see it. And I want my people to see it so that you understand that this has significance meaning. Only a fool ignores history, black folks, and we are no longer going to ignore this history. I'm not going to allow you to ignore it. I'm going to scream it till you're blue in the face with it, but you're going to understand it. Now, let us understand what he said in that cornerstone speech. He says this. He says, the new Constitution has put at rest forever all the agitating questions relating to our peculiar institution, African slavery as it exists among us, the proper status of the Negro. That's per quote. Now, let me break that down to you. When he says the new Constitution, see, the old Constitution is the Constitution of the United States. The new Constitution was the Constitution written by those 11 states that left the Union, elected a president, elected a vice president, formed a Congress. This was their new Constitution. So they're saying, the new Constitution, there is no debate over the system, over the issue of the institution of African slavery. And that institution is the proper status. That's where black folks supposed to be. You're supposed to be enslaved to us. That's what he says. So he goes on to say, this was the position of the Negro in our form of civilization. This was the immediate cause of the late rupture and the present revolution. So what Alexander Stephens has said to you is that this battle over slavery was the immediate cause of the late rupture. What did he mean by rupture? Rupture is secession, which is what the judge is going to read to you a little bit later. The revolution, that was the Civil War. So they'll tell you exactly what was happening, but because we don't know our history, family, and this is why we're having this lesson today, some idiot like Chris, some racist fool like Chris can come up there and spin history to tell you that the Confederate flag is about honor, tradition, and glory and the likes, and you swallow it. You just swallow it. And in the words of Brother Malcolm, you didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Now Plymouth Rock is landing on you, and they draping you in that Confederate flag because we don't know our history. But Judge, that's why I thank you so much for bringing us this so that we can sit down and have a study into this history called Mississippi. We're going to look at it. And we're going to expose it for what it is. So we see you, Chris. We see you and all you Republican minions of what you're trying to do. But go ahead, Judge.
Well, and it's like I believe we talked about previously, not today, but on the issue of the swastika. How many Jews would think you can spin that and make them feel good about a swastika or a flag that has a swastika on it? But that's what they've done to our people. And I can't help but throw a little politics in here. people, we need to be concerned because with the leadership of Trump, at the posture it is, with DeSantis coming on in the Republican race for president of these United States, you and I might find ourselves back on a plantation or worse. And I think I have, now which one did you want me to read this time? You want me to read the rest of the secession?
That letter of secession. I want them to hear how the fathers of Mississippi viewed God making us as black folks. Go ahead, Judge.
Okay, I think I've got it. It says, utter subjugation awaits.
No, that's too far down.
That's too far down.
You can go up in the first paragraph where you started. In that first paragraph.
Somewhere I've missed it. You see,
that's okay.
You know, I need these glasses.
You both need them.
Oh. Okay, I think I'm here.
There you go.
Let's see. These products are, is that it?
Yeah, that's it right there.
These products are important portions of commerce of the earth. They're talking about people, us. These products are peculiar to the climate, verging on the tropical regions, and by an imperious law of nature, none, y'all, but the black race can bear exposure to the tropical sun. These products have become necessities of the world, and a blow at slavery is a blow at commerce and civilization. That's
right. Okay, now family.
There was no choice left.
That's right. And so family, what the judge just showed you is this, that the founders of Mississippi now they want to call themselves good Christian people, conservatives. So now they've instituted God into their evilness. And what they said about God is that when they said the imperious laws of nature, they're talking about the way God made us. That God made the black man specifically to bear exposure. And they describe Mississippi's climate as verging on the tropical region. That is so hot that nobody but black folks can bear exposure to that sun to do what? To pick that Mississippi cotton. And they'll go down. Now, I need you to understand how much free labor meant to the state of Mississippi. So, Judge, if you can go down to that paragraph that starts with utter subjugation.
That's where I was before. That utter subjugation awaits us in the Union. If we should consent longer to remain in it, it is not a matter of choice, but of necessity. We must either submit to degradation and to the loss of property worth $4 billion of money, or we must secede from the Union.
Stop.
This is 1861. $4 billion. They didn't have that many zeros then.
Judge, I don't want you to rush past that. I want you to go back, and we got to break this thing down, family. I need you to understand what the judge just read. This all is in the Mississippi letter of secession. So what Mississippi has said to the world is that, listen, man, I know that Lincoln done talking about we gonna free the slaves in January 1st, 1863. Lincoln ain't our president, number one. So we ain't even hearing that. Plus, this free labor in Mississippi in 1861 is worth how much, Judge?
$4 billion. That's one state. Y'all hear me again, $4 billion.
Mississippi, now, Judge, you didn't make that number up.
Oh, no.
I didn't make that number. Anybody who's interested, go look up the Mississippi letter of secession. The founders of the leaders of the state of Mississippi said that our ancestors' free labor was worth $4 billion. Who knew what $1 billion was in 1861?
They didn't have that many zeros then.
No. And they just said we were worth 4 of them. See, Chris, we understand. We understand, fool. You're not bringing that nonsense up in here and it's going to go unchallenged. We're not going to do that. So black folks, now they want to criticize the woke movement. let me tell you something. Don't let them talk. They gonna talk what they gonna talk, but don't let them don't accept what they say about woke. See, in its quintessential definition, woke means to be aware of.
Yes.
But they want to make you feel like woke is bad. In its quintessential definition, in its purest form, the word woke means to be aware. I want us to be aware. Judge, that's why I'm so honored that you and Brother Jenkins are helping. And Brother Jenkins in the background, he's a bad man, Judge. I like Brother Jenkins.
We're going to try to keep him around.
No. We're not going to try. He ain't going nowhere, Judge. He ain't going to leave us. So listen, family. Listen at what we're doing. We are having an academia debate about, not debate, but lesson about our history. The very things that are impacting us today. This fool, Chris, and that racist Republican Party want to bring that Confederate flag back to Mississippi.
We're going to have to hold on that statement because we're going to come back right after that. I hate to do it to you, but I got to do it.
That's okay.
Welcome to the JMMF's Culinary Kitchen in partnership with Footprint Farms, the Farmers' Hands Markets, and funded in part by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, sponsored by Humana. I am Chef Shishi, the owner of Just in Time, the featured chef of the JMMF Culinary Kitchen, where we prepare farm-to-fork centered, healthier, all-natural foods in the urban community. Our menu includes salads made from collards, kale, and spring mix varieties, fresh vegetarian soups, and fresh juice elixirs made daily. We're open Tuesday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. And remember, what you put in your body is just as important as what you put on your body. We look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, we're back with Unmuted and opening soon. Farmers' Hand Market will have a soft launch on May 26th and 27th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then it will be open every Friday and Saturday in the month of June. It will be located at 350 West Woodrow Wilson Avenue, number 3140, Jackson, Mississippi, Livingston Road side of the Jackson Medical Mall. There will be music, free popcorn, door prizes, vendors are welcome, farmers, entrepreneurs, and businesses are encouraged to sign up. CSA boxes are available upon request. 10% discount on selected items for seniors 55 and older. EBT and SNAP will be accepted. For more information, call 601-946-3172, farmershandsmarket.org for more information. All right, Dr. Mack, we're back.
Good. So listen, Judge, where we were, and I just want to do a quick recap for our folks to understand. In his layman's terms, you got a white guy down there who's running for lieutenant governor, Chris McHenry, whatever his name is. Clearly, he is espousing racism. But if you don't know your history, you don't understand it, or you think that it is debatable. And so Judge and I are looking at two documents from history, particularly to a history that pertains to Mississippi. And those two documents are, number one, the Mississippi Letter of Secession, and number two, the cornerstone speech written by the Vice President of the Confederacy. And in both of those documents, there is no ambiguity about what the South was doing. They were fighting to maintain slavery, number one, and number two, they were fighting to maintain white superiority. That's not Judge's opinion. That's not my opinion. That's what the forefathers wrote. So, Chris, don't come crying to me, trying to spin to me about what your forefathers did. That's what they wrote. That's what you want to bring back. Man, you better go on out. We're not having that. We ain't going to have that. So that's where we are with this situation right now, Judge.
Well, and it's a very critical and I hope the listeners will share this information with your family, your friends, your church family, and anybody who will listen to you about the nonsense of this heritage and stuff, and how the Confederate flag really doesn't matter in the whole scheme of things. It doesn't stand for white supremacy. It doesn't stand for the suppression of African Americans and all of that. But you were talking about the cornerstone speech, and as we were go on.
No, go ahead.
And as we were going into break, I was reading, you talked about that first part about how Stevens was talking about the black folk and how we just needed to be enslaved so that we could be under their foot. And I looked at this part, and he further said that our new government, which was a confederacy, is founded upon exactly the opposite ideas. The foundation is laid. Its cornerstone rests upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man. Really, y'all, that slavery, subordination to the superior race, is its natural and normal condition.
Now, Judge, I need to slow you. I got to slow you down so that folks can understand. He said, our new government, this is the government of the Confederacy, is founded upon exactly the opposite ideas. He said it's cornerstone. Now, anybody that knows anything about the foundation, the cornerstone is its strongest part. Alexander Stephens, the vice president, said the cornerstone rests upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior race. He said this is our natural and normal condition. This is what Chris and that Confederate flag and those Republicans who support him, this is what they stand for. They stand for white superiority and black inferiority. And Chris, let me be absolutely clear, player. Me not run from you. Anytime you want to come public and we have this debate, player, bring that on. Pack a lunch, because you're going to be there for a minute, chewing on the nonsense of what your forefathers wrote. And I'd be damned if I'm going to stand here and let our children today and let you go unchallenged with that nonsense. We ain't having that, player. Not here, not today. We ain't having that. See, this Mississippi, this is their worst nightmare. To be able to go to those schools and become a critical thinker and look into the history. This is why Reeves and Tates and all of them, look at what they say. Anytime you read anything that offends white folks, we gonna pull it out of the schools. Well, y'all didn't pull this one out before I got a hold to it. And now I see it. And if y'all want to talk about it, white Mississippi, I'm more than happy anytime, any day that we can sit down and talk about this. I ain't got no problem with that.
And you spoke correctly when you almost said white America, because I still take us back to the Ron DeSantis who didn't want black history in the schools, to Ron DeSantis who doesn't want critical race theory taught. However, they've defined that, but you can't teach it anymore. So it's all over. And with Trump at the head, it is fermenting and fermenting. And we must take control of our lives, people. We must take control of our lives. We must go to the polls in droves and make sure that we vote for folk who will have our interest at heart. And these people clearly don't have our interest at heart except to be enslaved and
that's right.
subordinate to them. I mean, you're getting me upset, Doc.
That's okay. But Judge, here's what you better understand, family. The game ain't checkers. The game is chess. They're no longer fighting with the rope, lynching you, calling you that. Now they're fighting with the pen. They're changing the laws. They're fighting with the pen because they have everlasting. Now, if you don't want to believe that, okay, let's take a look at Trump. He was a one-term president, but his impact is still lasting. Why? Because of all the judges he placed on the bench. When they use that pen, That pen is everlasting. That's the new battlefield to fight with the law. So black folks, when you swallowing their nonsense that your vote don't matter, you ain't got to worry about no other black person disrespecting you. They done punked you to no end where they can convince you that their vote don't matter. If your vote don't matter, why you thinking they fighting so hard to keep it away from you?
Oh,
Now,
they're doing everything. You can't even get a bottle of water in the voting line.
oh, believe that, believe that. And so one of the things I want to talk about our history. See, I watched an event take place a couple of years ago that was an absolute embarrassment to us as a people because we don't know our history. And that is when they made Juneteenth a national holiday. See, that ties into this whole Confederate flag thing because we didn't know our history. Now, Judge, what have been your reason, not yours, but what is it that you have heard that justifies making Juneteenth a national holiday?
Oh, of course, the old adage that it took that long for word to get to the southern
Two and a half
states.
years.
2.5 years to get the word to everybody that the war was over and that slaves were free. So that's the biggest reason.
And the other
Tell
one
us
is
why
that
that's
these
wrong.
and the other one is that these were the last blacks enslaved, right? So
Yes,
these are
yes.
some of the things that we've heard about Juneteenth. So now let me help you to understand something from a Mississippi standpoint first. There are 3 days in Mississippi that I want to make you aware of because I want you to understand when you look at the Emancipation Proclamation, it tells you this is what's going to happen. Now, when Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, he was talking to 11 states that had left the Union. There were 11 slave-holding states, and Mississippi was one of them. Now, keep in mind, they left the Union starting with South Carolina in 1860. And by this time, the Civil War that started, 11 have left the Union. Now, when they've left the Union, we've already established that they got their president in place, they got their vice president, they got their Congress, they got their constitution in place. So these 11 states are acting as their own nation. Now, Judge, if I'm not mistaken, you are a member of a sorority. Which sorority is that?
Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Okay, so you are an AKA. Now, let's imagine that, and I think in history, let's say you left that sorority, you left AKA. If you leave them right now, I do believe that you have to write them a letter renouncing your membership. Is that correct?
Well, I don't have to, but I just stopped paying my dues. I stopped participating. But there are some other prohibitions too.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
I can't join another sorority that's a member of the Divine Nine.
Okay,
Certainly
okay.
can't do that.
Right. So let's assume that you decided to leave AKAs and you wrote them a letter saying, listen, sisters, for whatever reason, I'm no longer a part. But then they come back to you 2 years later and say, no, you need to continue paying your dues. No, what's wrong with you? I just told you I left. So the point is, when those 11 states left the Union, they got their own president. So now Lincoln comes in and says, I'm issuing the Emancipation Proclamation. Them 11 states, they didn't care. I don't care what you said, Lincoln. So now this nonsense that our ancestors got it 2.5 years late. Okay, family, let's assume that they got the word on January 1st, 1863. What were our ancestors going to do? Go up there and tell the white slave owners, oh, well, the president in the other country said we free, so we finna walk off this plantation.
We're free now.
That's right. So it didn't matter what you needed. What Lincoln needed to enforce the Emancipation Proclamation was military force. And I'm going to show you 3 times where that military force resulted in freedoms in the state of Mississippi in 3 different years. I want you to go back to July 4th, 1863. Right down the road, Judge, Vicksburg, Mississippi. There was the Battle of Vicksburg. Ulysses S. Grant defeated Pembroke at the Battle of Vicksburg. And when he did, black folks flocked to Vicksburg because Vicksburg now just became a haven of freedom. I want you to go right up the road 3 hours from here to Tupelo, Mississippi. The Battle of Harrisburg, also known as the Battle of Tupelo. The reason the Battle of Tupelo was important is because Tupelo was key to the supply lines for the Union forces in the South. And in that battle, there was a man named Stephen D. Lee on the Confederate side, and Stephen D. Lee was the first president of Mississippi State University, the school I went to. And Stephen D. Lee was a known racist. Let's be clear. Hardcore. Stephen D. Lee was part of the Confederate Veterans Historical Committee, which is the committee that made sure that the textbooks that we read didn't say anything positive about Black folks. That's who Stephen E. Lee is, the president, the first president of Mississippi State University. Now, the other Confederate general who fought at the Battle of Tupelo was a guy named Nathan B. Forrest. And Nathan B. Forrest was the first Grand Wizard of the little terrorist group, American-grown terrorist group known as the Ku Klux Klan. Now, the Battle of Tupelo, as I said, was so important because Tupelo, that was the key to maintaining that railroad that kept the supply lines for the Union forces in the South. And would you be surprised to know that there were some colored troops on the Union side because of the Emancipation Proclamation that fought against those two races and helped defeat them at the Battle of Tupelo. And as a result, Blacks in Tupelo got their freedom on July 15, 1864. Now, go right across from Tupelo to Columbus, Mississippi, a year later, after the Civil War is over. On May 8, 1865, Union forces came across the state line, found Blacks still enslaved, and now freed them. What was so special about Juneteenth? The 2.5 years that makes no sense. Oh, it's good drama, especially for people who don't know their history. That sounds good,
and
but that means nothing.
Factually, it doesn't make any sense.
No, factually, it makes absolutely no sense. Now, they were the last Blacks enslaved. Okay, family, here's the scholarship. At the time of the Civil War, there were 15 slave states. Now, during the Civil War, there became a 16th state, and that 16th state was West Virginia. West Virginia became a slave state because when Virginia seceded from the Union, 48 counties in the western part of the state said to Virginia, listen, we are definitely pro-slavery, but secession from the Union, we are not for that. And Virginia said, well, we seceding from the Union. So those 48 counties applied for statehood, and that's how West Virginia became the 16th of the slave states during that time. So, but before that happened, you got 15 slave states. 11 of them left the Union. 4 of them never left the Union. Those 4 states, slave states that never left the Union, are called border states: Maryland, Missouri, Kentucky, and Delaware. Those are the 4 states. They never left the Union. So in the Emancipation Proclamation, what Lincoln basically said is, all of our ancestors who were enslaved in those 11 states that left the Union, I'm declaring you free because you left the Union. But now for you folks who were enslaved in those 4 states that didn't leave the Union, keep that slavery going. Party's still going. So the Emancipation Proclamation did not free those who were enslaved in the 4 states that never left the Union, and then it became the 5th state with West Virginia. So what happened is this. The Civil War ends in April of 1965. In May of 1865, April 1865, the Civil War ends. In May 1865, Blacks are freed in Columbus. On May 20th, Blacks in Florida are freed in Tallahassee. On June 19th, Blacks are freed in Galveston. That's Juneteenth. So on June 20th, the day after Juneteenth, there were still 225,000 Black folks still enslaved in Delaware and Kentucky. because those were two states that never left the Union. They never, as a state assembly, abolished slavery. Maryland and Missouri and West Virginia all abolished slavery through their state legislatures. Delaware and Kentucky never did. So if you were to ask this question, go do the research, when did slavery end in America? This is what you're going to find, is that slavery ended in America on December 6th, 1865. And this is how it ended on December 6th. There was a proposal set forth to end slavery. That proposal we now know as the 13th Amendment. But in order for a proposal to become a law, you need two things to happen. Go back to your civics class. Mr. Turner at Rowan Junior High School did a great job of teaching me civics. He said, Carl, I want you to remember that in order for a proposal to become an amendment, these two things must happen. First, 2/3 of the Congress must approve the proposal. So on January 31st, 1865, 2/3 of the Congress approved the proposal to end slavery. At the time, there were 36 states in the Union. The other requirement for a proposal to become an amendment is that you need 3/4 of the states to ratify it. If you got 36 states, 3/4, that means you need 27 states to ratify that proposal. Georgia became the 27th state to ratify the proposal to abolish slavery in America. And Georgia ratified that proposal on December 6, 1865. That's when the last blacks were enslaved, not on June 19, 1865. So now what I'm asking you to go back and remember, family. Well, Carl, why are you making a big deal of this? People want to poke at that. You can poke all you want to, family, but let me say this to you. I bet you I couldn't just give you any arbitrary date for your birthday. No, you want your birthday on the right date. It isn't, I tell you what, go and try to celebrate America independence on July 3rd and watch America slap you side your monkey head. Go and try with if you got a husband or wife, let the husband or the wife declare their anniversary the day after the anniversary. People got problems with that. Our history deserves to be factually correct. So it is a big deal. Now, if America said what Kamala Harris, what Biden, what the Senate, Republicans and Democrats, what they said is, we're going to commemorate a day to mark the end of America's original sin. Now, America's original sin is African slavery. So the question becomes, when did slavery end? History is very clear, family, that slavery ended on December 6, 1865, with the ratification of the 13th Amendment. So why would you make it June 19th? I'll tell you exactly why they made it June 19th. Because we don't know our history. They were able to sell that to everybody, even the black vice presidential sister of these United States. All of those black folks in Congress, all of them in the House of Representatives, all of them in the Senate, all of them in the state legislatures all around this country. All of this black, brilliant brain power, yet nobody said, hey, wait a minute, let's put some thought in it. Slavery didn't end on June 19th, it ended on December. Nobody said that. That's how little we know about our history. Well, you might think I'm overreaching, but the fact of the matter is, they made June 19th a national holiday to commemorate the end of slavery in America at a time when there were still 225,000 black folks still enslaved in Delaware and Kentucky. And you can say what you want to, how you want to, black folks, but the fact of the matter is they did it because we don't know our history. Now, I'm not worried about what we missed out on the past. That's why we're teaching now. That's why I love what Judge Russell is doing now. We're taking time, not in February, we're taking time right here in May to study our experience in this country. That's what I love about it. So In order for us to do better, we got to know better.
We've got to know better. But before we go to break, tell us, when did Mississippi ratify the 13th Amendment? That's all you got time for now, is to tell us. We'll talk about the other side.
That would be 2013.
Okay, so the law was passed when now? This amendment?
1865.
1865, and Mississippi ratified it in 2013.
2013.
Becoming the very last state to even recognize the fact that we were free. So don't be
You
fooled.
hear that, Chris?
We're going to be back on the other side of this break. Unmuted.
Footprint Farms is a beautiful 68-acre vegetable and cattle farm located in Jackson, Mississippi, and is Mississippi's largest urban farm. The mission of Footprint Farms is to provide the community access to healthy food choices, introduce our youth to agriculture, and provide training and technical assistance to small farmers and ranchers. The farm is open to the public every Friday from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. to purchase fresh produce or visit us at the Mississippi Farmers Market located near the fairgrounds. We accept all forms of payment, including EBT and SNAP benefits. Looking for a beautiful venue for your next wedding, family reunion, or dinner? Footprint Farms offers a 3,000 square foot facility on 5 beautiful acres, perfect for your next event. For more information, visit our website at footprintfarms.com, Facebook and Instagram at Footprint Farms, or call us at 601-910-5534. Footprint Farms, farm fresh, city sweet.
Welcome to the JMMF's Culinary Kitchen in partnership with Footprint Farms, the Farmers' Hands Markets, and funded in part by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, sponsored by Humana. I am Chef Shishi, the owner of Just in Time, the featured chef of the JMMF Culinary Kitchen, where we prepare farm-to-fork centered, healthier, all-natural foods in the urban community. Our menu includes salads made from collards, kale, and spring mix varieties, fresh vegetarian soups, and fresh juice elixirs made daily. We're open Tuesday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. And remember, what you put in your body is just as important as what you put on your body. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Welcome back to Unmuted. Opening soon is the Farmers' Hands Market at the Jackson Medical Mall. It will have a soft launch on May 26th and 27th, but will be open every Friday and Saturday in June. It will be open 10 to 5 for that soft launch on May 26th and 27th at the Jackson Medical Mall on the Livingston Road side at 350 West Woodrow Wilson Avenue, number 3140 in Jackson. There will be music, free popcorn, door prizes, vendors are welcome, farmers, entrepreneurs, and businesses are encouraged to sign up. CSA boxes are available upon request, 10% discount on selected items for seniors 55 and older. EBT SNAP will be accepted. So for more information, call 601-946-3172 or go to farmershandsmarket.org. That's farmershandsmarkets.org. All right, we're back with Dr. Mack today, who is giving us a tutorial in who we are and why our vote is so important. And we've said that, and I hope you're listening. Don't just take his word for it. Don't just take my word for it. Pull the documents. You've got a smartphone. Go to the Mississippi Letter of Secession and read it for yourself so you will know for yourself. Go to the Cornerstone speech and see what it is that the Vice President of the Confederacy had to say about the worth of the black man, if you will. And then before we start back up, though, Dr. Mack, I want to read a couple of things for you, and then I'm going to let you unpack them for us. Now, Stephen D. Lee, you talked about him being the first president of Mississippi State University. Now, Lee said a lot of things, and none of them were flattering to black folk. He was, as they say in his bio, he was unabashedly racist. And
Devout.
in a speech, unabashedly, yes. And in a speech at the Columbus, Mississippi courthouse on June 15, 1889, Lee stated, "The question of white supremacy is no issue. That battle has been fought some time ago and won, that the white people should rule, not just this state alone, but the whole South." Lee advocated for women's suffrage for white women in Mississippi, but he had an ulterior motive. He didn't want them to vote, but he figured the husbands could control them, perhaps. Lee, on the issue of voting, because they didn't think that the Union would keep black folks from voting. Because, of course, remember now, the beliefs of the Union folk is completely opposite for that of the Confederate. Lee, on the issue of voting, says, "We must retain our representation in Congress and the Electoral College. We either submit to Negro rule, adopt the shotgun policy, or change our franchise laws."
That's right.
Lee also said, "Let us not fool ourselves. We know that the Negro appreciates and is proud of his right to vote. He will undertake more trouble and go further to exercise this privilege than the white man."
That's right.
But we don't go vote. We don't understand how important it is.
Right.
So
But
he
he
promoted
did.
them Jim Crow laws to keep folk from voting. He didn't think that they would be able to keep folk from voting, but then they instituted a poll tax and all of this. He served in the
That's
Mississippi
right.
legislature,
That's
just a whole lot of stuff
That's right.
to come at us through the back door.
Now, Judge, I want us to slow down a little bit, and I want the listeners to really understand who you just read about. Judge, you just read about a Confederate general named Stephen D. Lee. He was a devout racist. He was the first president of my alma mater, Mississippi State University. He was on the Confederate Veterans History Committee. He just told you that if there is anybody who appreciated the right to vote when they got it, it was black men. He was talking about black men because I need you to understand something. During that Civil War era, 3 huge sweeping pieces of legislation happened that directly benefited us as black folks. Number one, we've already determined that on December 6, 1865, the 13th Amendment was ratified that abolished slavery. Huge, huge, huge piece of legislation. In 1868, the 14th Amendment was ratified. That's what gave black folks citizenship. So don't act like a visitor and not vote. We are citizens. Act like an owner. So in 1868, we became citizens. In 1870, black men got the right to vote. And when we got that right to vote, we turned out to them polls like nobody's business. And this is what Stephen Lee was talking about. He said, man, them black folks will go to any extent to exercise that right to vote because it was precious. And we saw what that did. But somehow, and I know that somehow, Stephen Lee also realized that if I keep their history from them, they'll forget how precious that vote is. And now, Judge, what was the percentage of black folks that voted in Jackson, Mississippi in the last election?
Oh, probably less than 20%. I can't be absolute, but that's a norm.
It's okay. That's close enough.
Mm-hmm.
Close enough. So Stephen Lee, a devout racist, said, if we can keep their history away from them, they'll forget how precious that vote is. Judge, did you not just read where Stephen Lee said that the black folks treasured the right to vote? Is that what you
Yes,
just read?
that's what I read. Read
But
it
if
for
I
yourself.
keep your history away from you, you'll forget how precious it is. And look at us people. They kept that history away, and now Stephen Lee looks like Nostradamus.
Right.
He looks like Nostradamus. So those are the things that we have to keep in mind.
And we continue to say that our vote doesn't matter. But even an unabashed racist who did not want
Yes.
us to vote understood how important it was and how it could impact our lives in a positive way.
You know, I'll say this to you over and over again, Judge, and I know I've heard you say it. If it ain't that important, why you think they're working so hard to keep it away from you? If it ain't that important, why?
Yes,
You can
and
come up with
answer that
all that.
question.
Right. You can come up with all the nonsense you want to. But the fact of the matter is, and that beautiful way of thinking, that is a beautiful way of thinking to the white racists. They want you to think that way. And
Oh,
when
yeah.
you go ahead and swallow that pill, you are doing their work for them.
Look, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that $4 billion and how it translates into today's dollars.
So
I know, it's comical because I don't have that many zeros.
okay, so family, this is what I want you to understand. You know, there's talk about reparations around this country. And there are some of us who think, yeah, but they'll never give the reparations. Or maybe that's too much money. Most people don't understand quite how to calculate it. So the thing that's beautiful about the Mississippi Letter of Secession is I didn't come up with $4 billion. The state of Mississippi came up with $4 billion. Mississippi said that the value of our ancestors' free labor was $4 billion. Now, you got to understand how much money they made from free labor. And at that time in America, there was almost 4 million black folks enslaved, 4 million of our ancestors enslaved. I'm going to tell you right now, family, you give me 4 million able-bodied working people,
For free.
I'm going to make more money than you can't even dream of how much money I can make with 4 million people of free labor. So Mississippi placed a value on it. Now, when I was at Mississippi State, I took a class called Engineering Economy. In this class, if you wanted to calculate how much somebody owes you tomorrow, or let's say 10 years from now, the formula is simple. F, future, is equal to P, present, today, times 1 plus I. I, that's the interest rate. N, that's the number of years you owe me this money. And I need you to understand, N is an exponent. So all you do is take 1861 minus 2023. What you gonna come up with? 146, something like that? 146 years? So take 4 billion times 1 plus I. Now the interest rate, I don't want you to make up an interest rate. I want you to apply the inflation rate for today. I'm guessing the inflation rate today, and it changes daily, but I'm gonna guess 1.064335, something like that. So put that in and then raise it to the 146 power. It comes up to something like $99 trillion. That's just for the state of Mississippi. But remember, family, there were 16 slave states, and since Mississippi is last at everything, that's the least we can look to get. So multiply that number. Now, in this country, there's 40 million black folks, 99 trillion. So each of us, it's about two point something trillion dollars. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, Carl, that's absurd. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm as serious can get. Because see, the reason you think it is absurd is because you have no idea how much money they have made off of the backs of our ancestors from 1619 to 1865. I'm not even talking about the sharecropping system. I'm not even talking about the prison industrial complex. I'm not talking about all the other forms of oppression. I'm just saying to you that from 1619 to 1865, when they finally abolished slavery, do you have no appreciation of how much wealth America built? Now, furthermore, when we talking about reparations, you know, the one thing we always remember is them 40 acres and a mule. Well, let me
I'll
tell you
take
what
it.
America.
It'd be something.
Without question. And so let me tell you what America was doing then. I want you to look up the 1862 Homestead Act. So when America was saying to us, they're going to give us 40 acres, they were giving white peasant immigrants who ain't never worked a day in slavery ever. They was giving each one of those families 160 acres. Yet they were offering us 40 acres. However, I need you to understand this today. We didn't get them 40 acres. But this is what I want you to reconcile, family. There was no other group of people in the history of America who knew how to work that land better than us. Oh, we were enslaved. No, we couldn't read, we couldn't write. Maybe we couldn't speak the best of Queen's English, but could nobody work that land better than our folks? I want you to imagine what a Black America would look like today had we been given the same economical foundation that white immigrants who came to this country and they did a damn thing to do nothing. They just showed up, and America gave away 270 million acres of land. If you think I'm joking about those $3 trillion of what they ought to be paying us in reparations, don't kid yourself. There is no joking with me, because I know what America did for white folks. I know what America continues to do for white folks. And when America gave them that 160 acres of land, do you know America told them that for 10 years they didn't even have to pay taxes? And you think I'm joking? You think I'm joking? Oh no, I'm far from that.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you some parting words. We are almost at the end of our show.
Well, I'm going to say this. Brother Jenkins, who's in the background, thank you so much. Your professionalism and expertise about what you do. I was just proud. I'm proud of you. And I'm proud of you for standing with Judge Russell. And Sister Russell, to be able to have a dialogue like this about our history, where we had an opportunity to delve into the academia, I am humbled by your invitation for us to talk about our history. I thank you so very much. For our listeners, don't worry about my opinion about things. We drop receipts for you. You got the Mississippi Letter of Secession. Go read it for yourself. You got the Cornerstone speech. Go read it for yourself. These are documents that you can read. Nobody has to. Go look up what day did slavery end in America. Go back and look at the old footage of when Kamala Harris introduced Juneteenth, and she said this is to commemorate the end of America's original sin. Well, America's original sin ended on December 6th. So just sit down and do some critical thinking. And the other thing that I would say to you is that anybody out there who wants me to come and do a history lesson where we bring the receipts and get inside the history, I'm more than amenable to coming. I don't want no speaking fee. All I want you to do is help me with gas. And if it's in Jackson, you ain't got to worry about a place to stay, because I'm going to go stay with my mom and she going to feed me good. So, Judge, I have so enjoyed this. To you and Brother Jenkins, thank you so much. Unmuted. We were unmuted today. I like that.
Well, thank you so very much, and we'll have to have you back for part 2. How about that?
I'll look forward to it.
Thank you so much, and enjoy your travels. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
We are unmuted.